Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Shine from the Insides Community Podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Collington, and today we're going to be talking about something that is probably one of the, I say it I think every video, but almost like pivotal foundational moments for me personally, and that's to do with rituals and self-worship. A lot of people can take this a certain way when they hear these kinds of words because, let's face it, rituals can sound pretty scary to some people who have a lot of stigma, and then there's some things about self-worship that can sound also kind of icky, and they are. Sometimes if you're using these things for not the best kind of thing, I wouldn't really support that, but I'm going to teach about the proper kind of ways that maybe we should be thinking about administering these kinds of things in our lives and the way that they can help us in the different kinds of things. So first we're going to go over what ritual actually means, how and ways that we can make/use them, and how our self-worship is a part of our daily rituals, okay? And so what is self-worship, the ways we can embrace it or squash it, the issues with a lack of having these kinds of things, especially self-worshiping, issues with failing to realize how important our daily rituals are, and so for setting us up for success for our future, and then how to set up rituals for our daily and future success, then the value and importance of practicing, and then ways to honor this. And then we'll just go over our final closing points, which obviously is good. I do at the end of each video. So as always, I'll start out by saying that everything that I say is totally about my own experience. These are things that help me along my journey. These are things that I've done to research and incorporate in my life. Anything that I talk about, usually at some point or another, I have practiced myself. I'm not somebody that just preaches. I'm somebody that lives into these philosophies. This is my way of life. All right, there is nothing that I have to kind of showboat or hide, which is why sometimes I come on these videos and I look however I look. My place looks like I'm gonna go camping soon, so there's stuff places. But anyway, point being is that when I come to this, it's not to say that my way is the only way. It's to, again, remind everybody that I have actually had the privilege to be somebody that gets to live into these things because of my upbringing. Not that I had a great upbringing. It's more about what the process I've done to heal, and actually had the time to heal and had the support to heal, and a lot of people don't have that. A lot of people don't have access to studying even, and even though we have it online, it is a totally different spectrum to be able to actually live into it versus just reading about it, right? Like, you're not on that end yet of incorporating it into your life, and I've had the privilege of doing it for the past 10 years, and it is being something that every day cements more into my being. And if I hadn't have started them, right, I don't know how far I would get. So rituals pretty much are kind of what started this for me. They're the thing that started making me start thinking about how I moved throughout my day, what I was doing, what kinds of those things were actually beneficial for me versus not. One of my favorite quotes that I have, and it's written on my whiteboard, which is where I write my groceries, is this setting me up for future success? Every question I have is always that, and everything to do with self-worship is pretty much, to me, about caring about you as a person, and almost about this divine essence that we have around us, and the way that we can honor that through our daily practices. All right, so what is rituals? Well, they are structured, repetitive kind of sequences of actions valued for their symbolic meaning rather than just practical utility. So these help humans navigate transitions, build community, and find control in an unpredictable world, okay? And so their categories that we have here is, there's things like a passage kind of ritual, which marks like life ties, transitions, wedding, graduations, funerals. These are the most common that people are obviously, everybody kind of participates in. They're the most, I would say, acceptable ones. And then we have more civic ones, which again, these are ones that a lot of people, some people do not, right? We have people that don't vote, right? And that's part of this, is reinforcing national identity. So voting, parades, or swearing in ceremonies. Okay, and then we have religious ones, which again, another one that is pretty popular for some people, but people who don't practice religions might not. So it's connecting to the sacred through prayer, communion, and meditation. Secular is the one that pretty much, I believe that all of these things are important, but secular is the one that we're mostly going to focus on because they're the ones that are more individualized. And so these are creating daily structure in our lives, big or little, and the way that we can make or start the end of our days so that we can, in a sense, have the most productivity in our lives. But productivity does not necessarily mean you're producing the most. It means that you're at optimal, right? And so we want to be at optimal. It's never about you needing to be the best or perfect or anything. Like me showing up here, looking however I look, my sound being however it sounds, my stuff not being the best. It's not about being the best sometimes. It's about, can you show up and be continuous in that, right? And so a ritual is the same way. It's not about being perfect. Like some people, they miss a day at the gym and they're like, now it's done. You know, and they miss a day on their diet, now the diet's done, right? And I'm never actually educating anybody to do a diet. What we are doing here is not diets and it's not pills. Like those are kind of band-aids for a situation that's going to get worse again if you stop taking whatever or doing whatever that is, right? We're always going to be talking about lifestyle changes, and lifestyle change is why we're talking about those versus the band-aids. Lifestyle change is the thing that's going to set you up for the longest future success. So if you do not have this longitude kind of structure in place, regardless of the things that you implement, you're going to find yourself backsliding, right? And so these are ways, these things specifically are how we can cement some of these steps so that no matter what, we get back into it, even if we fall off. Because again, life's going to take you in different directions. So it's not always about, I have to do this, but sometimes it is, I have to do this. This is important to me, right? So anyway, and so collective rituals that we participate in, they bond our groups together, right? Whereas personalized ones, like the secular ones we're talking about, they aid in our anchoring, okay, in our grounding. They orientate us as an individual. And so that's why these are going to look different. Some people don't wake up the same way, and some people don't need to. But some of the stuff I'm going to talk about, if you did wake up that way, your day might be better, right? So anyway, as we can see from this, whether we determine we participate in rituals or not, they are part of our life, okay? And when we begin doing any kind of self-work, a lot of what we want to do is to step back and see all the ways we act or do or think in this world and discover patterns that could be tweaked to elevate or eliminate. So elevate us or eliminate our situations or issues, okay? So if we're programming, we are analyzing this. We are seeing what our processings there, right? How our system is computing. And then we're being like, oh, this is not functional. I need to tweak this, okay? And that's what this is. We're creating those rituals that when you go into your own coding, if you change this, then the system is not going to be the same system as it was before. It's going to be like that 2.0, right? Okay, anyway. In doing this, we can see what rituals we are doing that are helping or hurting us, and by engaging with these rituals that aid us to being the more aligned that we can be for the life that we desire, and by withdrawing or ending or participating in unconscious rituals that maybe we weren't even aware of that we were doing before, right? That are not aligned or healthy for us, we can then eliminate living in a way producing results that we don't want. So this is kind of like, the more you look at this, the more accurate your manifestations are going to be, because you're not going to be just saying, this is what I want. You're going to be like, this is how I live into what it is that I already am. This is how you already claim that life that you kind of want, instead of trying to manifest it from a place of lack. Who is that person and where is that position in life that I want to be? Well, how do I show up as that person? Well, these are the rituals that I would do, and why I would do that is because I worship myself enough to be devoted to the cause to make these happen, okay? So if self-love is the gift, okay, rituals are the form that gift comes in. It's the actions, the steps, the commitment to ourselves that show what true love actually is. As the easy stuff like a spa day, it's so easy to think that that's what self-love is and that that's enough and that that's good enough, right? But it's actually the work that we do or that we don't do that shows us what our true self-love is. And I've come to see that self-worship is a key concept pretty much to my self-love, and it is a core foundation to my rituals of a devotion to me. When we think about self-love, that's what we're looking at. This is the practice of treating your own mind, body, personal growth with the same level of reverence, intentionality, devotion that we typically reserve for a deity or higher power. This is why some people can be pretty skeptical about this, because some people don't believe that we should be ranked on those levels. And to me, I never understood it, because as a child, when you preach about religion and them speaking that we are kind of their blood, then it doesn't make sense how you wouldn't understand that that means you're a god too. And I don't mean we are the God. We are not the source, but we are a part of source, which means therefore we have that entity and that essence and that energy inside of us, right? So when we are looking at these kinds of things, self-worship is ultimately the highest form of respect that you can give to, if there was, say, a God, which I'm not saying there's not. I'm saying the best, same with taking care of the earth, the best way that you could support your religion or honor your faith or honor those beings, those higher powers, is to pay reverence and respect to their creations, which is earth and us, therefore yourself. So worshiping yourself, when done in a way that is not untoward, I would say, because like with everything, there is a way that people can skew this to be not so good. And when we use this in harmony with, I would say, divine light and essence of the creation of what we're here for, right? I believe that that is the whole mission that we're here for, is to live and reside on that level. And we've gotten lost along the way because we have almost made it a sin to worship the self and to worship the earth and to take care of these things. And we're almost looked at like we're crazy now when we care about doing that, versus being celebrated for being like, yes, that's exactly what you should do, right? Like when we leave a bad situation, we're like, oh, so sorry for you. No, like that person survived that. They got out of that. They changed, right? And like, anyway, point being, there are skeptics. In the past, we've seen and viewed in a negative light. It's a diss to a god or to any deities to worship the self on the same level as them. Calling people who do also like arrogant, like conceited as well, and giving them a lot of shame and guilt into even holding the self in such a high regard like that, right? Whereas it's interesting, because why is it okay for us to worship and speak on our issues, which a lot of our society has been propelled to speak continuously about the problems, continuously about the issues of the past, the problems, and instead nobody's talking about what's going right, how can we solve things, how can we do better? People are so focused on the problem that it keeps us feeding into that, and if we actually feed into a new way, we can evolve, right? And so it's so interesting. I've noticed so many people feel so comfortable in saying terrible things about themselves, but then when it comes to giving themselves a compliment, it's like pulling teeth from them. Why is it so okay for you to put yourself down, but yet the moment it's like you gotta like even just acknowledge the smallest win for yourself, you're a terrible person? Like, to me, that doesn't make sense, because we are just as equally deserving of a compliment as we are a correction. And a lot of the time these corrections come from people judging us from this perfection scale. And so actually a compliment to yourself is way more worthy and true than an ignorant insult would be, because you're again being judged for something, right? Whereas you are not being celebrated for what you have done. You're being judged for what you didn't do. You're being judged from this place of not being perfect, and that's not why we're here. Nobody is perfect, and if they are, red flag. You know what I mean? Like, red flag. I'm not saying it's a red flag if people do not have any issues, if you never ever have some kind of like little bit of struggle going on. It's a weird thing if you are somebody that's always complimenting yourself. I would guess like there is a certain level. But I'd say that it is equally offensive to me to hear you only speak ill about yourself. You know, I would much rather somebody blow up about themselves, especially when it's factual. You know what I mean? You deserve to speak that truth about yourself. When I hear people gloating and speaking their praise and they're like that is terrible. That is the worst, because then you're like, for one, you're avoiding your own truth. And part of self-worship is being like, this is who I am actually though, right? And I'm getting there, but part of the complimenting yourself is actually for what you are doing, not for what you're making up that you're doing. So it's just interesting, because we should be celebrating ourselves more, especially when we want to see ourselves change, because anytime that you are telling yourself, yes, this is good, one of the things you want is that body, that nervous system to be like, yeah, I'm safe here. This may be new, this may be different, but I am safe. I am doing a good job. This is exactly what I need to be doing, right? And so this is great. And you're confirming that for yourself, because then in your brain, now instead of just having this happen and you carrying out the actions, you now cemented it in multiple different ways through the acknowledgement, through like you can hug yourself, touch yourself. It's really good for body contact, because then the body is aware. It's not just a logical thing that you're thinking. It's like, I'm safe, I'm comfortable. So anyway, moving on. So in our modern day, many in wellness and spiritual spaces, therapy, this self-worship is actually an advanced form of hyper-intentional self-care. This is you being absolutely, without a doubt, paying attention to the fact that everything that you do is a part of your self-care. Self-care is no longer going to the spa. Self-care is now like, for me, is doing the dishes, because Jennifer doesn't like to wake up to a dirty sink. She likes to, if the day carries her through wanting to bake up a storm, she can do that and doesn't have to worry about a mess, right? You know, Jennifer likes to be set up for success. So that means that whenever I have an opportunity to do something that I think might help me in the future, I'm doing it. Because, hey, I don't know if she's going to break her arm tomorrow. And I left her dishes and now she's got to deal with them, you know? And so everything for me has become a part of how am I helping move myself forward or others forward. It has no longer been about pretty much that self-care is only like, oh, I'm doing a face mask, or I'll give myself those are things I do. But in the real worship, just like when everything's going wrong in life and you question your faith, like, how could God let this happen? You know what I mean? It's almost like those are the moments where the worship is the most. When you stick to it and you still believe, that is when worship is the realest, right? It's not when everything's going right and everything's easy peasy that you're going to have like the confirmation that you are like following your faith. Like, that's easy. Just like in relationships or friendships or business or anything like that, anything that you're dealing with, it is always so easy to deal with it in the sunshine phase. When it comes dark time, that's when we have to actually see what we're really made of. And when it comes to self-worship, the more that you stick with yourself through those dark times and continue that faith, you know, especially when you're doing new things, like that is the most amazing. So that's why when we have these harsh criticisms come up for ourselves and judging ourselves for not being perfect, it is so debilitating for us, because at some point you are not allowing yourself to be a learner and a grower. There's a certain level where you can give yourself feedback about how you want to do better in the future, but there's a certain point where we are actually just beating ourselves up for not being perfect right away, right? And so when you become very aware of this, everything that you start doing then starts to follow that line of how can I do this in a way that's going to take care of me better, right? And so in truth, religion usually is against putting the self on the same level as speak of God, being above all, based off of my learning. All teachings pretty much speak to us about being born from God, which is what I've spoken on. So as we can see then in truth, a lot of religions and things, they don't want us speaking about this. And one of the reasons you always need to question when people tell you not to do some stuff is, what is this taking away from me? What is this stopping me from? And a lot of the time, a lot of rules and regulations and stipulations and limitations that were placed on these things, they were done so to remove your power. They were done so to control you. They were done so that you did not have this empowerment. You were then under a collective control with the rest of everybody. And so instead of teaching us how to be these sovereign beings, how to be healthy and whole, they taught us how to be damaged, you know, and to be guilty and shameful for even trying to think that we could even remotely be good people, even if we're not perfect, you know. And so it's honoring the truth of who we are and all that we should be living in accordance to honor our own true self-worth, but also these sources, whatever it is out there. I believe to know, but I don't believe to tell other people what I know about that. You are allowed to come to your own conclusions about what you believe is out there for energy. Even if you don't believe it's nothing, we got something gotta go somewhere, right? So for me, I know what it is. So for me, in truth, when we get to here, I believe that the more that we honor this body and this realm and this time that we're in, the more we are paying reverence to that being that has created us, that we are a part of. Not just the being, but the source, the universe, everything. Everything has been put together in a way that is so intricate and beautiful. And so the more that we can see that in ourselves, and we can know that we can control what that looks like rather than being dictated by outside influences or past stories of ourselves, the more we can replace them in a way that is a more self-honoring story about the actual truth of who you are, without all of these limitations that have been purposely placed on us, right? As something to control and lower our energy, all right? So how self-love or self-worship kind of integrates with your daily rituals. So regular habits keep us organized, okay? Self-worship elevates daily rituals by shifting our internal mindset from maintenance to devotion. So it's not just like, oh, I have to do this. It's, I get to do this. Like, I get to clean my environment because I get to live in a clean environment. I get to enjoy it. I get to wake up and not have any stresses about my environment, right? Like, it's an I get to. And so then there's like, how do I do this in a way that I can take care of this because I want to? Not, oh, this is, I have to go about this. Worship and rituals to transform our habits into gifts to the self, all right? So looking in the mirror, one of the ways that we can really shift this with daily rituals is, just even looking in the mirror instead of like looking for the problems, right? Oh, it's so nice to see a familiar face, somebody that I've known for so long, which is me, right? Like, it's not just about, oh, what's wrong with your face, like, and that's what a lot of the time we look in our mirror. Some people don't, but some people look just specifically to pick at themselves, and so it's really important to even see that you could use the mirror moments as a way to talk to yourself in a loving manner and to even set an affirmation for something that's going on at the time. But taking time, like just taking the time, if all you can do is just take the time to truly see you, and accept yourself fully. I know it's hard sometimes, especially in the beginning of mirror work, especially in the beginning of, there's so many confirmations happening behind me. I wonder if you can hear them on here, but there's a lot of honkings. But the truth is that when we get into this, and you start working on accepting yourself more, it gets a lot easier to really see new levels of yourself and like find beauty in them, okay? And so we can recite our personal vows to some goals or even just acknowledge what we love about ourselves. But the truth is that when you look in the mirror, it is a very powerful time because mirrors are portals. So if we have, which we do, there's many different realities happening all at once, right? And sometimes when you're looking through the mirror, it is a portal to that future self of you. And when you speak these words, it's almost like a spell to release them and you into each other, to pass through. It's almost like that barrier or threshold so that you can move into that existence. And a lot of the time, these happen as a way because you were supposed to do that. You were supposed to move on. You were supposed to merge with this next version of yourself. But every time you look in the mirror and deny who you are and fail to accept yourself, you do not accept that crossing. You do not allow yourself to move into that next reality, right? And exist as you truly are. Instead, you're being taught to see yourself as this corruption, right, in this realm, rather than almost like the beautification and beauty that is truly being an individual that doesn't need to be perfect and gets to live in their way that actually feels almost aligned, right? And it wouldn't be as scary if we had more healthy people. The people who live in alignment that are not doing well and they're up to like no good, like obviously they can use this again to reinforce, because they're like, well, I feel good about doing this, but this is not what I mean, right? Like, I used to feel good eating a ton of donuts, right? And then I learned what is in donuts and in like foods and stuff. Now, not a lot of those foods give me a lot of comfort anymore, even if I eat them, right? There's this awareness that happens once you start becoming aware of certain things. It no longer makes you as drawn to them because you're actually aware of what it's doing to you, which is what recognizing these patterns do. It's like recognizing the poison in some of them, right? And so when we take our time to notice a ritual of when we look in the mirror, and that's our time to be self-deprecating, right? Bullying ourselves, like that's a big ritual you need to change. Because out of the whole day, nobody might say anything negative to you, but you did. And you did it maybe multiple times, right? And so like that is a big ritual to recognize, like, I am actually poisoning myself. I'm telling myself this is true about me every time I look in the mirror. So I'm expecting to see this when I look in the mirror rather than expecting some kind of difference, right? So bath and skin routines is another way that this is a daily ritual that people can do, right? I am somebody that has eczema. You can see it on me. It's bad in the summertime because I be going a bit crazy and having stuff rub on my neck. And my skin is very sensitive. So anyways, there's nothing wrong with that. The point is we learn about it and we work with it, okay? It's not about me saying I have a problem, because then I am saying I have a problem. I'm saying that my skin, it does a lot of work, and I appreciate it. And especially in this world that has a lot of toxins in it, my skin is doing the best job that it can, and I appreciate it for that. And you know what? Sometimes it needs a little extra TLC, and I'm totally fine with that, because I love my body and I love my skin, and it is a treat to honor it, to take care of it, right? And so when I have my baths, when I do my skin routines, a lot of that can be transformed into body devotion rituals. Being so grateful to get to take care of it and to get to honor and really feel into who you are and being here, right? And so to make it an act of reverence to you and your vessel, it's about really being a lot more slow and a lot more mindful. So a lot of rituals we do, a lot of them absent-minded. We're fast-paced through it. We don't give a crap. We're just trying to get it over with, right? And so when we actually take time to really slow down, that slowdown in itself is an act of rebellion in a world that is so fast-paced. But also it helps reset your nervous system, because you have slowed down. You're no longer working off of that fight or flight system, right? You're able to tell your body, hey, it's okay for us to be in this moment and to relax. And the more mindful you are, the more that it's not just, oh, I'm putting on lotion. It's like, oh, I'm truly taking care of my body and me because I care about me. Thank you, arm, for everything you do. Thank you, hands, for all the things you do, right? Thank you, smile, for all the smiles, right? Like, it is a big time that we can really honor our body as our own temple. Another thing is dieting or activities can become ways to court yourself. So like when I first was single for a while, because I had a really bad breakup years ago, like 9 years ago, and then I didn't date anybody for 7. And so anyway, point being, when I vowed to be single for a bit, what that meant is I wanted to learn how to date me, what I liked to be dated like, how do I want to be taken care of, right? And in that I learned about certain places, and that I don't really need the most expensive places, because I don't actually go and take myself to restaurants, because as a person that doesn't actually really want to be in this poison toxic society, even though I don't mind going into it, and I'm not saying people in it are toxic, I'm saying the way that we've done it, right? Like the food sold in most restaurants, not healthy for you. You have to pay to be in any location now, instead of us having these free spaces where everybody can just be there and enjoy, right? And that also you have a lot of people who haven't done the healing in these places, and a lot of the time you have a lot of these tables pushed really close together because they're trying to maximize the occupancy. And as somebody who likes personal space and can feel energy, I don't want to be in amongst a ton of these people in all these situations. Maybe in some settings I know I might like it, but again, see, I can speak limitations on myself, even speaking on this, right? Saying I'm not that kind of person, and I'm terrible in crowds, but I'm not. I'm great in them. You would never know I feel this way about it, right? The whole point is because I can be where I want to be. The whole thing is I know that as a personal thing, taking me on a picnic in the woods by myself, I would much rather than sharing our entire evening with an onslaught of people, right? And that's the same with nature. I don't go into nature to go to the busiest spots, because I don't go there to connect with everybody. I go there to connect with Mother Nature and myself. And so dates for me are always going to be a lot more personal than less like the showboatiness, right? And so some people, that might be what you like, and that's fine. But the whole point is, like, for me, I dated myself to see what I liked. And it's not to say I don't take myself out. I still take myself out. I still treat myself. I do still go to restaurants. I still do treat myself on those kinds of ways, and take myself on dates that do require something other than going into nature. The whole point is I've learned the spectrum of that, right? And what it takes to really love myself and to treat myself exactly what I want, so that when I have people around me that do the same, I'll easily recognize it versus the people that don't. And that's the part of the rituals, is like, how are you treating yourself? And then that also helps you to show, how are others treating me? Well, when I'm alone, this is not how I like being treated. Or when I'm alone, this is how I treat myself, and others treat me better. So maybe I need to be more like that, when I'm with people and how they treat me. Or maybe I want to be less like them and more like me, and I need to focus more on these things that align with me more, right? So it's important for you to really know where you lie in that, to know if you are honoring yourself by doing anything, really. But even when you're eating, it is a time for really being blessed to nourish your body, being honored for the food that you're having, and to make sure that you're really taking it in with that energy, because our food, we program, right? Like, we can program. That's why one of the reasons I do believe they used to bless food was to make it appropriate for your body, but we've skewed it, right? We've skewed it. Praying over your food, to me, is not so much like you have to bless the creator, but you can. I am grateful for the food that is here. For me now, because food kind of poisonous, I am like, I'm updating this. I'm removing all negative energy from this. I'm now instilling all the most positive energy for every cell in my body, so that every cell in my body can use it fully, effectively, to its optimal capacity, and can absorb everything that it possibly can from any of this morsel of food here. And I'm so grateful now for all this loving nourishment that's coming into me, and thankful for the food I'm about to receive. So for me, now when I eat, it's not just, I need to eat, I need to feed my system. It's more like, I want to take care of you and nourish you, and I'm so grateful to put some good food into you that is going to make you feel really good. And if it's not the best food, doing a prayer like that over it, right? Doing an affirmation or doing an intention and doing any kind of energy work to cleanse it and clear it for you, so good for you, because even when it's not healthy, then you've now made it as healthy as it can possibly be for you, because you changed it. Right? And so a lot of these things we are doing so unconsciously that we don't even know how much power we're giving away by not just applying a little bit more mindfulness into them. So rituals can be incredibly powerful for us. I read a story about this lady who was like, I can't remember, this was a long time ago, but she was a psychologist, and one of her clients was homeless, and so they weren't able to eat good food. And so she's like told them to do this over their food, and then she's seen them they stopped seeing each other, like they weren't in sessions, but she's seen them on the street and they looked so much better, and she thought so much had changed. They're like, no, I just started applying that, right? And so your body reacts differently when you actually do interact with the food before you eat it, okay? So anyways, one of the last little ways you can invite this in the daily ones that we're describing is when you waking up, touching your phone immediately, or dealing with something that's completely going to make you react or heighten your emotions. So that could be like answering emails, responding to texts, going on socials, because you don't know what you're going to see, and sometimes it can be something your nervous system is not ready for right when you wake up. So even just avoiding technology for the first 30 minutes, greeting your day like, I'm so excited for a new day, it's going to be a great day, I'm so grateful I woke up again, and then I get another day to live. And then just taking time to really move slowly through your morning, and you can make your morning drink at that point. I don't drink coffee, so somebody who drinks coffee, that would be the time that you'd want to do that, right? And so then that's a good time for you to do mirror work. That's a good time for you to do affirmations. When you first wake up, your brain is most programmable, which is one of the reasons why, if you're rushing to stuff that overstimulates you or excites you in a negative way that gets your fight or flight going, you've immediately just started your day to be like, this is what we're doing all day. This is how we're going to be moving all day. This is the most important thing all day, is for me to react and to be going, right? Versus I am so grateful, right? And just taking that moment and getting to be like, I get to choose how I'm moving through my day. And then when you are grounded, you can meet and welcome the day, and you know that you can handle whatever comes your way, because you're already in that space of having it together. You're already composed, right? It makes it a lot easier because you've already started taking care of your needs, versus if you start the day not taking care of your needs and being completely about everybody else, it's going to stress you out, because already that inner child of you, that baby in you, is like, I need fed. I'm crying, right? They're going to be upset because you're not taking care of them. But the moment that you do, in the morning time especially, now the baby's soothed. The baby has been nourished throughout the whole day because you made them the priority in the morning. I'm not saying babies only need help in the morning, but I'm just saying for that inner child, you putting them first like that, your needs first like that, so big on them just helping you throughout the rest of the day. They're like, oh, what do you need? What do you need? What do you need? So their humor, their memory, their flexibility, their imagination, all of those things, they're going to be helping you throughout the day because now guess what? You took care of them. They're going to take care of you. Right? But when you don't do that, we'll find that we'll get a lot of frustration, anger, be really easy for emotional regulation to be heightened. Why? Babies do that, right? And that's because their needs aren't being met. So anyway, very important. One of the things that I would say, like, means the most to me is about waking up and starting my day a certain way, right? I used to wake up and be completely different, and I used to have some chaotic, like, boyfriends when I was really young. And I hated looking at my phone. I hated seeing it because no matter what, something gong showy was on it, right? And so then I'd wake up and immediately be so anxious. And then the whole day, that's just how I would feel. So for me, I learned really young that it's so important to pay attention to what these things are when you first wake up, but also in the reactions for certain things. If you know that there is a potential for you to be heightened emotionally this way, then maybe there's a better time for you to give yourself to deal with it versus right when you first wake up. Or another time that really is terrible to do that is right before you go to bed too. You shouldn't be doing crazy stuff before you go to bed, because again, before you go to bed and after you wake up in the morning, they're the most programmable. But if I was going to say to focus on one over the other, definitely morning time. Definitely starting the day, because then you set the stage for the rest of your day, okay? All right, so how self-worship rituals can aid us? Well, practicing these healthy boundaries, they're going to rewire our relationship with ourselves, which is the most foremost and front point. So if you were to look at this as an umbrella, just doing this one thing is going to cover a huge amount of things underneath it. So if self-worship was a bracket, right, then it's going to build our big relationship with the self, and then it's going to have all these little things underneath it, because it doesn't just help build your relationship with the self, it gives you bulletproof boundaries, right? So you're going to treat yourself with reverence, teaches us to say no to people and obligations that drain us and our energy. The next thing it's going to do is it's going to lower your chronic stress, because if you're not having to put yourself in these situations, right, and you're only doing stuff that's optimal for you, clearly your nervous system isn't going to be as jacked up half the time, right? You're going to be able to be more boundaries protect us, they aid us. And so on top of our daily slow mindful rituals that pour back into us, they regulate our nervous system, therefore giving us that time to allow stress to lower, which also can lower your depression, anxiety, any of those kinds of things, right? And so the next thing it's going to do is going to boost your internal validation. When you know what you need and you honor it, you know that you are good enough. You don't need other people to approve of it. When other people do, external is then more of a bonus, as we consistently are fully pouring back into us. So we feed our own self-worth. We don't need somebody to feed it, because I already have fulfilled my need of it, right? That's that baby again. So the more that you boost your own internalness, you are helping yourself, therefore, to become almost like impervious or protected from outside sources. So even when things aren't going right, say, even if you aren't getting that external validation, it doesn't matter, because you have the internal one. You know you're acting in accordance with yourself. A lot of people, if you're speaking things that people don't like, even if you know they don't like it, it's the truth. And so they might not like it. That external validation of them not liking it does not matter. My internal validation of it being honest and being the right thing to do and say at the time, that's what matters, regardless of how they take it. Okay, and so the last one is going to be drives your intentional growth. Devoting time to our mind ensures we are actively moving towards our goals instead of merely surviving and reacting to emergencies. So when we really put time into this, like a lot of the time, like I said, that unconsciousness, we're just running on autopilot. How can I deal with what's going on now? Oh man, what do I have to deal with now? What's on my plate now? Rather than, I put that on my plate, I can't wait to eat that and enjoy that. right? And so devoting time to ourselves, we are actually making sure that our goals, what we're doing, we are taking steps to be intentional in our actions that are fulfilling things, rather than just being like going through the daily grind. Even if the daily grind is already a part of it, because even though I'm going through the daily grind, it's still about the way that you do it. It is not a grind. It is a dance. It is a pleasure for me to do this every day, because I am working on my goals every day. And that looks different every day, because I'm one of those people, even though I schedule and have some kind of like regularity in my life, a lot of this stuff is by flow. A lot of this stuff is when I feel called. Like today, right now, it's June 22nd, and it's just the day after the summer solstice, Father's Day, and I could have done this video another day, but it felt like a good day to do it, because one of my favorite days to really honor myself is the summer solstice. And one of the reasons is because it is so much about pouring back into yourself. It is about recognizing how far you've grown. It is about really having that empowerment to be like, this is me, this is who I am, and I'm so proud. And so it is one of these times that does bolster my love of self and everything around me so much that it is an honor to be doing this video today, even though I could be doing it another day, right? The whole point is that it's nice to know that when I do stuff, it's always on time and exactly when it should be. It's always very intentional, and I'm always growing despite it being at different speeds and things happening at different days. It doesn't matter, because I am not surviving, I am thriving. And when you're thriving, you don't feel like, I have to do this now, I have to do this now. You're like, oh, when might I feel is the best time for me to do this? Because I know I have all the time in the world to do it. So when is best for me, right? So anytime. Anyway. So here we have the next thing about concerns with self-worship. So this is probably one of the areas where we're going to talk about kind of like the issue that could arise with self-worship. So we always want to have balance, as there's some who can like manipulate this, obviously, and create more unhealthiness in their experience by using self-worship to avoid honesty. Leading to some to become vain, narcissistic, emotionally avoidant, and isolation from all else that says anything other than that, right? And so in this, we're using it as important to know, it's important to know, as great as we are. So when we're using this, it is important to know, as great as we are, perfection is an illusion, okay? There will always be ways we can change to grow, to become better and healthier, all right? So when you are like, I'm king shit, I don't got to do anything, I'm the best. Like when you have teachers and mentors that say that shit, no, I don't. Like, I get it, you're owning your crap, but to me, a true teacher knows they are never done. They are never done learning. And if you think you're done, then I don't really want to know you, because you're not evolving. And I evolve constantly, right? And so I want to be around people who are evolving with me. I want to be around people who are not saying that they're the best that ever was and ever will be. Because, ew. You know, you don't even know all the people that were and will be, because half the people died. They didn't even let the greats really become great. So who are you? I'm not saying you're not great. I'm just not saying when you are narcissistic, when you are at these places of being super vain and over distancing yourself with a lot of cognitive dissonance, you don't know what you actually are, because you don't see yourself clearly. So when you say you are the best, you really are not. And you won't even allow yourself to not. And the grace of seeing that you're not the best is actually how you become the best. It is in that humility that we truly are the essence of our true self. When you feel better than everybody else, you are living in the ego. And in the ego, right, you are not truly honoring yourself. You are, again, almost protecting yourself from truly facing about, maybe I'm not the greatest. And that's okay, too, right? You are putting up a boundary to be like, I'm the greatest, I don't have to deal with anything. I don't have to face it. And that's great and all, but you're not doing the work either, so you're actually not as great as you think you are. The great people thrive in doing the work, in the hard, and they come out on the other side stronger. So if you are hit your plateau, then that's fine. But don't be trying to sell everybody else saying that I'm the greatest, because no, you're clearly not. You still have work to do. But this is more to help us be the opposite, okay? So lacking self-love. So when we are looking at this, I'm not creating this video for people who are in the narcissistic realm, because they're already great. They don't really want to hear it anyways. This is for the people who are actually under it. You're the opposite end of the spectrum. Instead of you're the greatest, you might think you're the worst. You might think you're the most pathetic. You might think all these terrible things about yourself, right? And so this is when you're lacking self-worth and self-love, and knowing you can do these things and love yourself as you are and not have to uphold and be this cruel to yourself. It will change everything in your life. Because I was one of these people that, even though I present as a really confident person, when I was young, right, I truly did lack these things. And my life, it did feel terrible for a really long time, because I did. And I was looking for a lot of external validation from a lot of the world that's like, you're not perfect. And in a world where you're never gonna be, trying to force yourself into that mold that is unhealthy, because nobody exists in it, right? It will never make you feel good. What will make you feel good is being honest with you and knowing that that is exactly what you need to be when you're here, okay? And so not knowing this, not knowing about daily rituals, and minimizing your self-worth so you don't have any self-worship or any self-love, can create ways we unconsciously squash these things from our life and can lead us to self-sabotage, right? So due to allowing cognitive patterns and outdated programming to run the show, we can see things like our subconscious blocks or unconscious habits really taking the reins, okay? So subconscious blocks, unworthiness scripts. I'm not worthy of this. I don't deserve this, right? We have to earn. This is the belief that you have to earn through constant achievement. I'm only as good as what I produce. And it's not an internal, I am good just because I exist. And because I exist, I can create more, and that's beautiful. But I don't have to create to be worthy or loved, right? And then there's another one of guilt of self-prioritization. So you see your self-love as a selfish feeling and guilty to pursue it first. So like, you don't even feel entitled to take care of yourself. You have to take care of everybody else, right? And they come first, and you don't get to say. So when that baby's screaming in the morning, you put them on mute, right? And that's a block, because then you're telling yourself, I don't have to listen to what I need. I don't have to take care of myself. I haven't earned taking care of myself. I have to claw back any time to take care of myself. And that's how, obviously, we don't do well. Because then when you squash these things, they become bigger in some other way, right? And so the last is, for subconscious blocks, is internalizing early criticism. So we're repeating a lot of the negative voices in your head. Sometimes you'll hear it in the voice of who it was that said it. Sometimes it'll be your own voice. Sometimes it'll be whatever. But normally when I have an icky voice talking to me in my head, because I am one of those people that have internal scripts, right? It does sound icky. They are like, me, like they're crunchy. And so it's interesting because, yeah, we will hear these old voices of parents, peers, teachers, as our own inner monologue sometimes. And even if not, it might be the thing that you say to yourself out loud without even thinking about it, right? And it's because these are old stories that were programmed, early criticisms of you, that now they're just so common, they just come right out when you don't even need to think about them, right? So a subconscious block is anything that's deep-seated beliefs that come from usually in your childhood, okay? When we're talking about unconscious habits, these are things that are automatic, repetitive, and drain yourself without knowing that you're doing them, all right? So these are a lot of the stuff, like I say, even when we eat fast, right? Or when we are saying we have to do something. Like, these are a lot of stuff that we don't even think about. We're just doing them. And so unconscious habits is like morning, but also time when we're doing doom scrolling. Like, it's just become so normalized for us to immediately check our phone and be stuck on it for a while. And so immediately we're flooding the brain with other people's needs. We're immediately showing or comparing ourselves to others immediately first thing in the morning, right? So then there's casual self-deprecation. Like, so many people do this. And one of my things, like, this is about joking about your flaws, and this trains your brain to accept negatives as truth. Like, this is already telling your brain, this is what's factual about me. Because the thing about jokes, which I've said for a very long time, no joke is a joke to your body. Your nervous system, your brain, even though you classify it as a joke, the nervous system is like a sponge. It sucks it up. So even though you're like, not a big deal, your nervous system, like, that was true. I accept that. I'm going to take that and I'm going to act in accordance with that now. And so it is a very important, like one of the very first videos I did, we were talking about watching your self-talk. And that is why, because you create way more than you think you do. And even those little jokes, the more you catch those little flops that just speak out of your mouth about yourself negatively, the more jokes you catch about yourself, the more you stop people from speaking shit about you either, right? When they crack their jokes and they're ignorant to you, when you stop that, you will do a lot better in life. Because again, that is now a conscious thing to be like, no, we don't talk about me like that. We don't joke about me like that. That's not true about me. So we don't talk like that, right? You can make jokes about things that are true and funny and still lighthearted. Like, they don't have to be negative like that to be a joke. And that's when you know you got a good comedian. I'm just saying. Anyways, people-pleasing flex, which is like, yes, before checking with yourself, like, oh, I'm always there for everybody else, but wherein are you there for yourself? Like, you never ask yourself, do I want to do this, before you say yes, right? So checking in with yourself first is going to be the most important thing that you can do, rather than saying like, oh yeah, I help everybody, I cater to everybody before me. Like, that is not a flex. All right. Another one is neglecting your environment. So living in chaos, clutter, tells your brain you don't deserve comfort. If you all knew the state of my bedroom when I was a child, my God. You know, if you all knew the state of my first, like, maybe 2 or 3 apartments, my God. Nobody, even me, my younger self, was like, I can't believe we live here, because we keep this place, even though there's lots of stuff here, we keep this place clean. You know what I am? I have ADHD. I have a ton of hobbies. I have a ton of things I do in here. So my place is full, yes, but it is clean. I take care of it. And I've learned that with my brain, especially with ADHD, the more organized I am, the better I can flow. I don't have to keep my brain memorizing where everything is all the time in the clutter. So in taking care of your environment is much bigger, because one of the other things that in psychology we learn is why environment matters is it's also a physical representation of what's going on in here, right? So the more you have chaotic in your environment, the more this probably is. Hoarders, one of the things with hoarders is they keep on so much, right? Like, they keep it inside of them. And so on the outside, that's what they do. They're keeping it too, right? And I speak on that because my grandma, my uncle, they lived together. They were hoarders, right? My mom and dad, I was really proud of them, because after my grandma passed and my uncle Michael passed, sadly, my family had to deal with the hoarding situation, right? And I'd gone up there a few times in the summer, and I was like, it's pretty bad. You guys got spare rooms and you're filling them all up. Like, I don't even have a room in here to stay when I come, which is not, I don't have to, it's their home. But the thing is like, that to me is a sign you have too much stuff, because you're trying to put it in rooms to hide it, right? To get rid of it, versus just storing. You have extras, like, they didn't just have 1 or 2 of something. They had like 3 or 4, because they had different settings on them, and some of them were broken. It's like, let's go, let's get. So my family, I'm really grateful, because they learned from that, right? Like, from my grandma's experience, then they were threatened with a fire, and then having to go through all your stuff and find the most important stuff when you have that much stuff, that much more difficult. And it's the same in your mind. When you have so much in there, it is hard to find out what is important versus what's not. So when we keep our environment in a certain way, when we have a certain flow in our life and we take care of these things, it is also a sign that you're doing that inside as well. But one of the things about the environment is energy flows. Like, if you look in Feng Shui and everything like that, the more you move around, the more energy you're introducing in your home, the more that you're also doing that for you, right? And so your home is a living entity. Think of your home as well as, like, I wouldn't say a baby, but like a wise old person that it deserves that tender loving care, and that reverence for being your home. This is my sanctuary, right? And so when you take care of a sanctuary and your body is a temple, it just wonders for you, okay? So next we're going to move on to what issues arise with lack of self-worship or self-love and self-devotion, okay? So when we remove these things from our life, we are most likely to find, right, a certain amount of things come up here. So without any of this, using only religion, this leaves a person entirely dependent on the outside world, all right? And this is one of the biggest issues, is because the outside world, as we've come to learn, highly problematic. not telling us the truth, right? Not so reliable. So or things that are outside of the self for validation, which again, anybody outside of you, you know your truth the most. So when you are again looking for this is one of the reasons why, like, I don't mind people going to get help, but I'd rather teach you how to help yourself, because some people who are in this profession, like my profession, other professions in any of these kind of realms, they haven't done the work. So when they're helping you, they're not actually looking at you with this unbiased lens. They're seeing you through theirs, right? They're not able to take themselves out of it. And they're also not giving you the advice, because they're not practicing what they preach. They're somebody that's just speaking to you but don't know how to live it themselves. And so it is incredibly problematic when we are listening to the external world above anything else, because you are the one that knows your truth the most. So we want you to be able to hear it, to listen to it, to know what it feels like when that happens, right? Because if not, we are not anchored. We have nothing to ground us, because the outside world changes so much. It will never be consistent for helping you. But you know what can be consistent for helping you? Yourself, right? And so with daily internal devotion, daily internal devotion, these are the kind of issues that can arise, okay? So psychological and emotional erosion, all right? So no foundation of self-love, internal mental health suffers. So this is where you get chronic people-pleasing, others always matter more than you, imposter mindset, struggle to accept your own success, caring about doing and being like lucky. So anytime something good happens, it's just lucky rather than your hard work. Like, you're never actually the one that's doing the hard work, and you don't deserve the credit. It's just because of luck worked out for you. Emotional burnout, constantly running on empty. Rest is a luxury to earn. This is a big one, especially for old folks, okay? Like my dad, he's retired. He won't slow down. He's like, I like doing stuff. I'm like, I get it. But part of what you should be doing is taking care of yourself, right? Anyway. But then there's going to be a lot of self-criticism, okay? And so when we get that, you get like an abusive, cruel inner monologue. And so small mistakes then just prove your unworthiness. Anything is just a mark for you to be like, yep, see, I knew it. I'm terrible. And you're not terrible. We don't talk about ourselves, right? So the whole point is, like, that's what happens is it slowly starts to erode. It slowly starts to dissipate. You don't even know the difference between your importance and others, and therefore you just think everybody else matters, right? And then when it comes to yourself, you're going to be harsh and cruel, because we're not like other people. So if you're only constantly comparing yourself to them, you're always going to be in a deficit, right? There's two, but other sections. So relational vulnerability, and then behavioral and lifestyle collapses. So relational vulnerability, how we treat the self, sets the stage for how others treat us. This is one of the biggest things to know about, right? If you don't take care of yourself, why would the people around you take care of you? Which, right and wrong. I don't agree that that's true for everything, because there are a lot of people that you have these friends and people come in to show you the self-love, and then you become that, and then you can be better, right? But sometimes, a lot of the time, what you're more likely to see, like my past, when you are so low in the self-worth and self-love department, and you are entertaining these unhealthy habits or addictions, a lot of the time, that is when you are going to be somebody who you are in the wrong crowds and talking to the wrong kind of people. And I mean by wrong, it just isn't aligned for your optimal capacity. And so these people are going to feed into those lower capacities for you. And they're going to be okay with treating whoever, because you don't care about treating yourself however. So you're not paying attention to how they're treating you. It's not so much that you're like, yeah, treat me like shit. You're like, oh, that's not a big deal. I don't care. Like, they don't ever, consider you. It doesn't matter to you because you don't consider yourself, so you don't really notice it. But when you consider yourself, when you have self-respect and boundaries, you dang well know when people cross them, and you dang well do put them in the place, and dang well do say goodbye. So that's the difference, right? Is when you don't know, and you don't do anything about it. You just allow that to keep happening. So this is where we get tolerance of mistreatment, right? We have to accept poor treatment, disrespect, boundary violations, and feel we don't deserve better. Codependency, the entire dependency or our entire identity and mood depends on our partner, all right? And that creates an anxious attachment. So then we have hyperjealousy. This is something that I have experienced probably the most of, right? Because when you are somebody that has worked on this a lot, in the past, I did not work on this a lot, right? And so I didn't know I was great. I thought I was shit, right? So I didn't know people would be jealous. And I lost a best friend recently, and it was sad, but she has very resentfulness towards me and is jealous, and I still don't understand why, and that's fine. Thank you for illuminating it to me, because at some point I'll deal with it until you won't move past it and you won't deal with it and face it yourself, so that can be moved on, right? Like I say, you can get with people and then them learn from you and grow, and then you don't have that affect you. But when they don't grow and it then takes it out on you, when you know your boundaries and your self-worth, part of my self-worship and devotion is to be like, clearly you're not good for me, and I gotta go now. Even as much as I love you, I gotta go, right? So hyper jealousy, low self-worth, triggers constant fear. Anyone you love was going to find better and leave. Constantly measuring yourself up to others and always not seeing good enough as them. Comparison, competing, resentment to anyone who's deemed better than them. Jealous of anything that requires attention away from them. They take it as like a demotion. And this is a form of self-sabotage, to push away and to confirm that you're unlovable. Right? Like, you get hyper jealous and push people away by being and acting in a certain way that people don't want to be around you then. Right? And then that confirms this unconscious belief. You're like, yeah, I am unlovable. I am unworthy. See, I knew I couldn't have this friend. You could have had that friend if you'd let them be your fucking friend. Anyway. Behavioral and lifestyle collapses. So this is a lack of inner devotion directly impacting your choices and physical habits. So this is when you're going to self-neglect more. When you don't give a shit about yourself at all. We're talking about like not. And when you get depressed, you're going to notice this is some of the stuff that happens, because immediately depression means a lack of movement, right? So like you start abandoning things that you actually require because you're starting to not move around and not give out as much energy anymore. So you abandon personal hygiene. Healthy nutrition, movement, sleep, viewing your body as a machine to wear out over a temple to tend to. So you don't actually even care about tending to it, because you just think, when I'm burnt out, then I'll sleep. Right? Numbing and escaping is the next one. So you're turning to substances, endless social media scrolling, posting, binge watching, shopping to drown out underlying discomfort for being alone with yourself. So a lot of the time, I'll know when I'm avoiding my work because I'll be hyper-focused on these kinds of things, right? And sometimes that's okay. Sometimes it's okay to numb and escape yourself for a little bit. It's when we get stuck there and we're doing it for a prolonged period, right? When you've had a really heavy day and you really need to unwind, there's nothing wrong with taking a time out and tap out. That's why I don't say that you shouldn't be on socials at all. You shouldn't be using some of these things at all, or never watching movies, or never doing any of these things, right, that people can claim are unhealthy. It's about your moderation. It's about how often you have them in your life, and when you're applying them. It's one thing you've had a really terrible day and you just don't want to think about it, and so you tap out for a bit. It's entirely a different thing to live your life like that every day. Right? And so I'll know that that's what's going on for me if I'm avoiding something. And that's part of my self-worship and love and devotion, is to be like, yo, I noticed that you've been doing this for a really prolonged period, and that's not usually healthy for us. So you okay? Right? What is it that maybe we need to look at right now that maybe we have been avoiding? And then all of a sudden something will come out, and guess what? Then my old activities return. Right? It's that immediate having to be honest with myself about, this is what I'm doing. And if you don't even know these patterns happen, you don't even know this is part of it and maybe why, it's hard for you to even correct it, right? And that's why we go over what these look like if you don't have it. And so the next thing is going to be paralysis by analysis. This is one of the things that were the most prominent for me because I was in my head for so long. And so this is you stay trapped in things, jobs, relationships, unfulfilling routines because of lack of self-trust to make a change for the better. You keep analyzing what's going to be the best thing for you to do. And so you can argue almost either side of the fence about why it's okay to stay or not to stay. And so sometimes you can talk yourself up into something, and then immediately one little thing will be like, no, and then you throw the whole thing away, right? The whole thing is that the moment that you start getting this call for a little bit of, I need to change, these things aren't working out, and you start thinking about it, the more you try to talk yourself out of it, that's probably a good indication it's for you. Because what we were saying in the intuition video, right, which is like one of my earlier ones, is talking about how the more something comes to you, and you talk yourself out of it, the more it is a high intuition calling. Versus when you talk yourself in, you're trying to convince yourself. That is an ego usually thing. That is not your intuition. So like when you get into these logical battles of like spinning in loops, that's already you not being in your intuition, because your intuition already knows the answer. It is not, your ego is what does those closed feed loops, right? And so you want to stay out of the ego when you're making these calls, which is why, and that you want to have some level of analysis, but you want to not be paralyzed by it. You want it to help you weigh up the costs and for you to understand. But then when things keep coming back around, it's important for you to follow that call, right? Like it came back around for a reason, okay? So, all right, the next step, I'm not going to say the last, but so issues with failing to realize our daily rituals are either setting us up for success or rooting us in future failure, okay? So this is when you don't realize what your daily rituals do. The problem with that is that you're ultimately creating a blind spot. Like I say, if you don't know that that's there, that pattern's there, you can't really change it. If you don't know the coding is messed up there, you can't put new coding in. So this is an area that can be very dangerous, because sometimes, especially with self-worth, you are putting yourself in situations, you're being around people, you're making these choices, right? That could be a detriment, like could kill you, some of these things, right? And so it is incredibly important to know we have these blind spots, and the more we look at them, the more we are actually helping protect ourselves, right? But also helping ensure our growth. We are supporting ourselves then too, because now we don't have that blind spot. Now I can see. Right? And that means I can navigate way more easily. So when we fail to realize this, we also allow for automatic habits to quietly dictate our future without conscious consent. This might be tons of stuff that you really hate happening, and then just somehow it always keeps happening, right? And that's just why sometimes it's really hard to understand the root of it, because you have to really dig deep to find out how some of these things are interrelated to one core issue, right? So, and this is where we can also fall into the trap of learned helplessness, right? And this is the number one driver of depression. So, life just happens to you. You control nothing. Nothing you do matters. Success and failure are fate or luck, so you don't dictate it no matter how much effort you put in. You're always just tied to whatever the fates decide, right? And so this breeds a victim mentality. It's one of the most debilitating things that we could be in, because then you're not really thinking about how you can be anything other than that. You're just a victim. So there's nothing I can do. The circumstances are going to be this for me no matter what, right? So I guess I'll live into that role. And it's very depressing to think that way, because it's not true. You've made yourself the victim, right? And so here we go, this is like thinking unhealthy habits, doom scrolling, eating hoarded foods have no impact on your depression, and that we never will attempt to change it. Instead, we're stuck believing powerless to the depression. So like a lot of the time we wonder why our life is crap and don't want to ever look at what we're doing that's causing it to be crap. And the most powerful position that you could ever be in is when you start owning exactly where you are and exactly what has happened. You know, there's this quote that's like, oh, I could be mad that it rained, but at the same time, I was the one that didn't bring the umbrella, right? But at the end of the day, you can be mad that it rained and you didn't bring an umbrella, but you can also dance in the rain, and those are choices that you can make, right? You're going to get wet no matter what now. You don't have the umbrella. So what are you going to do to embrace it now, right? It's not about beating yourself up about the umbrella, but it is acknowledging that you didn't bring it, right? You didn't bring it, okay? So anyway, fall into the illusion of the one big move. So this is where we're waiting. We're waiting for a single moment to change everything, for things just to fix it all for us to be just saved, right? So this is a single event to save or ruin us. So like it could be a good thing, and it could also be a bad thing, where you're just waiting for something to come in and just take it all out from under you, right? Which is merely a trap, underestimating the power of compounding small habits, seeing failure happening overnight, and success needing a massive leap. Like no matter what, success is going to take so much effort, but yet all it takes is one little bitty pebble to throw you off your game, right? And that's what's the problem is because it breeds ignoring the facts. That if you stay true to these little itty bitty movements, even if you have a setback, you're still moving forward. You're still moving forward, right? Failures, as many small, unexamined errors and judgments, but success is built from boring, repetitive daily choices. It's so interesting that we get so focused on success, but yeah, success is really the slow, long, persistent game. You're never going to be successful just quickly, and if you are, guess what? It might not last, because a lot of the time success does take that foundation building, and failures often, they are usually just one little thing that happened that you're going to learn from, and then now guess what? You don't have to do that again. Failure doesn't have to be this big giant thing that can take you off your game as much as we make it, right? But when we don't understand about these daily rituals, right, and we don't understand about the empowering thoughts behind educating our self-worship, right, we don't see that we are succeeding and how much we're growing, because we're not acknowledging that. We're not seeing what that is. And so we're just saying, yeah, I'm a failure, and if I even want to change it, it's going to be this exuberant amount of energy versus just, I need to take care of myself on the day-to-day and say no to things that don't matter and just do what feels best for me. You know? Anyway, next one is subconscious reinforcement of an identity. So not doing the work to vote for specific identity you wish to embrace usually is reinforcing a negative self-image or on autopilot. So if a daily habit involves skipping the gym, eating unhealthy, sleeping in always, scrolling a ton, it's not just making bad health choices. It's an action that tells the brain subconsciously we are a person who lacks discipline and don't care about the body or being healthier. At some point, there is that one quote that's like, when you don't like a habit and you keep doing it and it sticks around, you have to ask yourself, what do you benefit from staying that way? And a part of benefiting when you're not moving around a lot, well, I benefit because I don't like moving. I like to be active, you know? It's easier that way. Why don't you eat healthier? Well, it's easier that way. You know, I don't have to think about it then. My food's made for me. I don't have to do anything. You know, so a lot of this stuff, we're telling ourselves that, and we are choosing these things. And so it's important to know that when you are making these choices, you're reconfirming what that identity is. I am somebody who doesn't eat healthy, right? I am somebody that doesn't go to the gym. So naturally, I'm just going to be somebody that might be lazy then. What is the opposite of these people, right? And so it's important because we're not those, right? Like I was somebody who used to be a lot like that. And now I go to the gym. I go out in nature. I hike a lot. I eat healthy all the time. I love to take care of my body, and I love to do these activities. But before, when I didn't know that, I'd never really tried, and I didn't know how they would feel. And so when you know, you learn that it's quite different. And I was always choosing these things because they were a lot of the time easier. It was easier to do what I'd already done and I knew how to do than it was to apply these new things that were going to obviously have a failing moment. You know, I'm not going to be an expert at them. And then if you're trying to be perfect, when you fall off, you're immediately like, yeah, see, it's not for me. Or when your body reacts differently, you don't see the results you want. Yeah, see, this isn't going to help me anyways, right? It's just so easy to decide something's not for you. And a lot of the time it's because we are telling ourselves we're not that person, right? But the person that is these people, this identity that you can choose to be, that's when you have to decide what those actions are and how they would do them. And even if they fall off, have those little failures, it doesn't change the identity of this is the person that this is what they naturally do. Just because they eat bad one day does not mean I'm a person that eats bad. It means I'm a person that lets myself eat when I feel like I want to eat something, because I still have free will in this game. It just means that I moderate when I choose to eat terrible. And by terrible, I just mean sweets, because I love sweets. Anyway, so with this subconscious reinforcement of identity, it breeds a long-term failure mindset. Even if you change, you're going to sabotage it, as spent years telling yourself you're another identity, right? And otherwise, so you're not successful, right? You're someone who fails. So why lots of change requires patience, why sometimes we face things multiple times, like when we're in a spiral. A lot of the times we keep being tested because we're ascending in that spiral. The spiral comes up, right? So even though you see something from a new perspective, you're at a different point in that spiral, but you are being tested again to confirm this is the identity I'm sticking with. I am no longer that lower identity. I am this one. And I see it differently now, right? I have a new perspective. So chronic energy and focus leaks. Rituals can feed or drain by being blind to it, and it can lead to burnout. And so zero intentions to for your day means you operate from reactivity, and you spend most of your best mental energy on trivial matters, okay? And so doing your own stuff, we are drained and unable to do because it leads to too much frustrations and feelings of lacking achievement. And often why that is because we've now given out majority of our energy to other people and other things that don't suit us. So now all that willpower, all of that control that we had, and just energy in itself has now been depleted because you've given it away to things that actually are depleting, for one. But for two, you now don't have it left over for yourself, and so you're frustrated. You're coming at things usually really empty, and so it's more challenging to do your tasks because you're not at full capacity for them, and so you automatically assume you're failing when in reality you just haven't been giving it the time it needs, right? And when you do, you will see the results you want, but you can't just get there, right? It does take that effort, right? And so a lot of the time it takes the effort of doing it from a place where you're not drained already. It takes the effort of doing it from a place of, this is my first priority. That's the self-devotion, right? And guess what? Then everybody else can come next. Self-prioritization is not a terrible thing, especially when you are trying to set up a new life for yourself that might benefit other people in the long run. It is incredibly important that you learn how to self-prioritize. Okay? As you're misdiagnosing your root cause of our problems. This is a big one. This is one of the ones that I probably see the most, especially with people who are trying to avoid doing the work. Because your lack of self-awareness can cause problems to solve for the wrong person, kind of thing. So example is, you're constantly anxious. We may assume your new job or your new relationship is the problem, but in truth, it could be our chaotic everyday routine that destroys our sleep. And so every day we feel anxious because we're not really sleeping properly. We wake up kind of sporadically, or we wake up and we immediately have those things like pulling us towards other people's needs, right? So in reality, we don't know what actually is our root problem because we're not actually finding the root problem. We're just assuming it's this new superficial level that we've introduced, and yet this problem has kind of maybe followed us for quite a long time in our life, and yet we keep blaming a simple thing in our life rather than the actual problem, right? And so this breeds making radical disruptive life changes that don't resolve underlying root causes, and so it carries through for some destruction for our daily habits into the new scenario. So pretty much what that means is, by doing this, we are then reacting. We're constantly being like, no, I gotta get rid of this, gotta get rid of this, gotta get rid of this. And meanwhile, it's us. You don't need to get rid of anything. You need to deal with things differently, right? And so at the same time, it's interesting because we'll destroy our life before sometimes we'll realize that we are the ones literally with the sledgehammer destroying ourselves. And that these places were never the problem. It was just the way that we were dealing with being in these places, right? Okay, so how do we set up rituals for daily and future successes? Well, the key to doing this is to approach with a mindset through self-worship, designing routines that treat our time, energy, and mind as sacred, not to-do lists, but acts of devotion to person we are today in this moment and who we're becoming, okay? And so simple is best. We can abandon them by feeling we don't have enough time to do so. So a lot of these things we can make elaborate and then have excuses on oh, I can't do this today. But for self-worship, as I said in the beginning, duration and extra steps aren't the biggest factor, it's consistency. Being consistent is what true devotion cares about. So doing even a minimal ritual, anything, is better than none. So if you have no time, you woke up late in the day and say you have to get to your phone or something, still taking a moment to check in with yourself or greet the day or just be for a minute is going to always be better than that immediate grabbing your phone. All right? Anyway, types of rituals and ways to utilize them, okay? So directional rituals. These are setting up for current success. These are rituals to protect peace and prime your brain for high performance. This is exactly the one that I just talked about, greeting the day, first 30 minutes. You could be doing a lot of stuff. The highlight of why this is important in the psychological realm of it. Wires your brain to believe an inner state is the most important event of the day. How I'm doing, how my inner place where I show up is the most important thing for me to focus on, is my top priority when I woke up, right? And so that is going to be the most important, which lowers your anxiety and sharpens your focus for your other daily tasks, because then now you already met your first need, which was you. Now you can focus on everything else. Workspace cleansing. So this is really good to do at the end of your work days or when you're done in between projects and stuff, to clean up your desk, to clean up your workspace, to say, oh, I'm done. Marking the end of something. So it could just be wiping things down, tidying, finalizing work, closing tabs, like anything like that. When you're doing this, it's important because it's important to think of it as you're cleaning your sacred temple for creation. Like this again is a place that you create something in, and you're preparing it for another day so you can use it to its full capacity. When you have everything left open in there and chaotic, that's what you're returning to, is that old energy, old chaos, rather than welcoming up for the new energy of a new day, especially if you woke up feeling different than you were the day before. The old energy is still lingering in that room versus when you close it down, you shut it down for the day, right? So you're doing it out of love and ease for you tomorrow. This is like part of why I also do my dishes and stuff usually. And so highlight eliminates wasting every single moment or energy on small stuff. Saving the rest gets rid of decision fatigue in the AM, and it starts your day from a place of feeling love and your needs met. So then financial devotion hour, time to sit down with finances, monthly, weekly, not with anxiety but gratitude, creating a friendly catch up with a loved one. So a lot of time finances is one of the areas that people get the most stressed about, and a lot of the time we don't think of money as our friend. And so one of the biggest ways that we can change that is by changing our relationship with it. And so instead of being like, oh my god, I have to do financing and it's really stressful, it's like, oh, I get to see how my friend is doing and catch up and look into it. And so by the time that we start doing this is something that you can do. You don't have to, but I'd recommend it, because the more you become a friend with money, the more money wants to become a friend with you. And so it's the act of self-worship through looking at resources, making enjoyable time with food, sounds, smells that comfort you, and attract finances and handle what you need, paying things off, automating, making decisions for what isn't worth the cost. So this is like a really good time for you to be like, yeah, this is worth nourishing myself and investing in versus this is not worth nourishing, investing in for me, for my self-devotion, right? And the highlight of this one is it shifts our relationship from fear to stewardship. Like, I'm not scared of looking at my finances. I'm taking care of my finances, right? And so as we secure the freedom, investment, and safety of autonomy of our future self, so the more that we care about this, technically we are preparing and helping our future self, which again is another act of love. And in the future, you don't have to worry about it as much, because guess what? Past, you cared about it and looked into it. So there is a few things that you can do for other kinds of rituals that I like. But somatic rituals is a reverence for the body, as our body is our physical vessel and it's required to execute our successes. These are giving back to that temple, okay? And so anointing or loving yourself or skincare, bathing routine, this is something we talked about in the beginning, but it's transforming to a slow, mindful devotion to the body and all it does for us, using gratitude for us, but also physical strength, health, and senses. So the highlight of this one is it grounds our nervous system, helps cure body's dysmorphia patterns, because when you actually take time to love and adore your body, you are not as harsh on when you see it. And body dysmorphia, when I learned about it in school, and my sister is somebody that she's put a lot of work on her body, and even though she has, it's like it's hard for her sometimes to see it. And like, I'm like, I go up there and it's easy for me to see it because I don't see her for a while, right? And so I'm like, oh my god, you look so different. She's like, I don't see that. And I'm like, that's crazy, right? And it's because like I genuinely believe she's getting better at it, and I'm really proud of her. It's more of self-acknowledging where she's at, right? And how far she's been. But because she never really looked that hard at her body before, she doesn't even see how far she's come, right? Because that's the thing, is being somebody that maybe hasn't lost a lot of weight since my gym journey, I have gained a lot of muscle and my body has transformed quite a lot. And I know that because I was up close and personal with my body for a lot of years before I started working on it. So when my body made the smallest change, I was like, oh my god, look at that. That's so neat. Like my arms, these things used to be huge. Like they used to be able to fit across my face, okay? So when I start seeing like these little dents in here and these little skins and these pulling it back and me being able to see my tricep, right? Like that's a big deal. That's a big deal. And it's because I noticed, I cared, I am devoted to myself and pay attention to these things, right? And so when I started really taking care of my body and skin, really adoring my body, right? That feeling, that contact, that's how you know you're changing. And that's how you know you get that appreciation for yourself. So it's not so much about how you look at that point. It's about how much you feel, like how you feel. And that's a really beautiful thing, because then you start seeing the beauty in your body versus like the problems with it, right? But it also helps ground any kind of self-esteem issues as well. So not just the body dysmorphia. You don't have to be all the way at that point for it to be helping you. But if you have low self-esteem, really loving and adoring your body makes you feel a lot better about being in it, versus like, I don't even like to touch my skin. I don't like to touch my titties, like nothing like that, right? Like, it changes you. But anyway, so it builds a deep physical confidence that can be... Man, my writing for this video sucks and I hate it, because I can't even edit this later to change that. So I'm sorry for the viewers, because you can really tell when I can't read what I wrote. Anyway, point being that, yeah, it's something that we can carry into public spaces with us, because the more we feel good in our internal self, then that is something that can come into the outer world with us, which then again adds in, like I've spoken in my self-love video, which makes you kind of invincible to what everybody else says, because if you love you, it doesn't really matter what anybody else thinks, right? Anyway, decompression evening release is another one. So set alarm for 30 minutes before bed, saying bye to your screen, take time to stretch, to yoga, breathe, or even state out loud what your day tensions were, so that you can acknowledge them and release them, right? And then have gratitude for other areas that you enjoyed of your day, or that even the gratitude for you even voicing it and giving yourself this space before bed, right? So this aids us in releasing the physical tension accumulated from fighting our goals during the day, signaling to the brain the battle is over. All right, helping with very deep sleep usually. It's restorative REM sleep that we're going to get usually when we do this kind of stuff, and so it helps have a higher cognitive function for the next day. All right. A few random fun rituals that I think is fun that I like. So there's the grateful glance mirror work. So this is whenever you catch a glance at yourself in the mirror, instead you can wink or smile at yourself, like an inside joke with yourself, right? Like almost like how in those movies they pan to the camera, you know? Anyway, but yeah, time to replace scanning for flaws into a friendly co-conspirator. So like, my best friends use me and they love me. Anyway, so then there's the beverage intention settings. This is what I do. Most of my drinks, if you know anything about energy, you know that stirring a lot of drinks kind of activates them, okay? So you can just stir your water and it'll activate the water if you have any intention. Like, I'm amazing, or my day is going to be chill and blessed. Like, stirring that into your water, you drink that in, you drink that in, and the water's changed, right? You change the molecular structure of it by doing that. You can do that for any of your drinks. It's the same with blessing the food, right? You're again changing what that energy is, and then you're going to drink that in. And so part of what you can do as a random fun ritual is any kind of beverage you can set an intention for. All right. So, and like you're drinking a magic potion. So I do a lot of magic mushrooms, not a lot, but I have magic mushrooms in my life. And one of the best things you can do before taking mushrooms, or usually any drug, is usually set an intention first, because then you're connecting with the spirit of that substance in itself. And then you're asking it to produce certain results for you, so that way they know exactly how you want to connect. If they don't know how you want to connect, the spirits are going to take you wherever they feel like taking you, right? And so a lot of the time, it's nice to set the intentions for them. And so this, again, it's like drinking a magic potion. Shake it off. So this is one of my favorites for somatics, is like, because like literally it's just about getting rid of everything like off of your body. Your body just needs to sometimes release stuff. So it's an auditory release one. So to break out of a bad mood, play your favorite song, or song you loved when you were younger, something that makes you immediately jump and dance, and then aggressively dance, jump, or shake your hands and feet. And it's safe to be goofy, loud, and take up space. Like, the more movement you do, the more sporadic or chaotic or whatever, the better. Because one of the things is you don't even know how your body needs to move to release something. And the funkier the move means that something needed released, right? And so, not to be performative, it's not to be overthought, it's truly just about letting your body go, okay? Then there's sunlight kiss. So when overwhelmed and the sun is out, go stand in and feel the sun on your skin, like a nice warm hug and imagine being charged up, take 3 breaths, and then move on. I like to also hold my hands out. People who know about hand chakras, you have, well, chakras in general, you have chakras in your hands. When you are drained or really needing like a charge up or boost in energy, you can put your hands out to the sun in any way that you feel like, down by your sides, however, and you can soak up the sun through there. I usually tell the sun, thank you for all your upgrades in your DNA. I now accept them and allow you to upgrade me to my optimal capacity. Thank you for charging me up and allowing me to soak up all your good energy. So anyways, the point is that even just feeling the warmth of the sun on your skin, you'd be like, it's such a nice hug and embrace. Like, you don't have to charge up that way. Just a sign that you're not alone, you know, and that, you're still being loved and adored, because the sun, we are more complicated plants, right? And so at the end of the day, the sun is doing you what it does to the plants. It helps you thrive too. All right, and so portal crossing. This is another one I've talked about in videos before. There's been a few famous like people. A lot of I think the guy was plays maybe hockey or something. Anyways, there's a few magical influencers that talk about this. There's a few psychologists that talk about this. So it is something that I'm not going to name a person, because it is something that multiple people talk about. But it's called the portal crossing, which is a doorway, threshold, boundary crossing kind of intentions. And so when you're walking through any kind of doorway, it's to be thought of as a portal. So when you move through one to the other, you're moving into a whole new world on the other side. And so when you cross with an intention in mind, that's the world you're walking into now, right? And so every time you walk through a doorway or a portal, that's something that you can think about. When you're using keys, you're unlocking to that portal, right? Or unlocking to that future. And so walk through any doors, archways. It's important to know the power of crossing them. It's because you're in a liminal space, all right? So because it's a liminal space, that means you're transitioning between one to the other, and therefore means that you are, again, in the in-between. And in the in-between, the dark, the vastness, the limitlessness, that's where everything's created, right? So that's why it's such a powerful time. This is also, if you want to know how to know that this kind of is a thing, is you actually forget things. Like, that's why we usually forget when we go through doors, is because you left one space and now you've reached another, and if you go back into that room, you might remember it again. And so again, just take your intention with you, and you will be able to kind of manifest a lot quicker, and walk and timeline jump. Those are things you can do through that. Okay, so to know that when you're going through a doorway, the best thing you can do is just think about all that you want to carry with you. You don't want to think about what you don't want to carry with you, because again, we're not feeding power into what we don't want to create. We're feeding power into what we do want to create. So when you cross one boundary into another, you're thinking about what is in the next one. Like, if there's a specific intention, I got my dream job today, I got my raise today, now you're walking to reality where that is the truth of that reality, because you walk through that portal and you jump to there. And sometimes it's important to know that even if it isn't the one at hand, like maybe the opportunity specifically you had in mind, that opportunity is coming up next, because maybe there's another more aligned, perfect one for you if it wasn't the one that you necessarily thought that was going to be for. But anyways, so the last thing we're going to do is look at the value and importance of honoring this. Okay, so if we're created in God's image, the divine caring for ourselves therefore becomes an act of stewardship over God's creation. The more we honor the vessel, the more we honor the Creator. Developing these rituals helps us transform life into a living sanctuary, okay? So we're not surviving. We are co-creating and consecrating our life, ensuring our energy is poured into what matters. These daily calibrations, anchoring our worth internally, helps us make outer chaos, criticism, rejections of the world lose their power over us, turning the mundane of every day into a physical expression of gratitude for the gift of being alive. An unhealthy point of view believes it is the sole source, ultimate power. It all revolves around me. A healthy point of view, we are the vessel made with intention. Holy duty to honor this vessel and to keep clean, strong, joyful, and to be able to fulfill our purpose. Right? So we don't need to believe everything revolves around us for us to love ourselves. All right. In fact, you recognize how much you are just a little piece of sand in this beauty of life when you start caring about yourself, and why it is important to care for everything. Okay, so by the importance of honoring this is to see our own personal rituals are preparing us and for our collective duties and participation. Doing them helps us to show up with patience, kindness, and the love required to do it as the full service that it's deserving of. the importance of honoring this is also that we get nervous system regulation. So modern life forces us to give so much, and taking our time for us can help counterbalance that. Conserves mental energy. The more predictable date that we have in our days or in our weeks, there's not as much that we have to think about or plan or worry about coming up, because it's all kind of something that's already happening for us, right? And so when you get rituals in that you really like, not only does it help comfort the body that you're doing stuff that you like, but it helps them to predict, knowing that these things are coming, right? So if I have a stressful day, well, I get to decompress when I go home, So anyways, another thing is that it can, cognitive anchoring. So aids us in starting and ending phases of our day to prepare or unwind. So again, like I was just saying, prepares us, it protects us, because then we know these things are coming, so we don't have to worry about them as much. We're not going to abandon our values or boundaries that when we need these things, right? We're going to listen, and we're going to allow ourselves to be anchored and grounded, rather than saying we don't need that, we don't have to do that. So then helps audit our self-image. So executing precise premium rituals for the self trains the brain to expect high standards from every area of our life. So this again is like, is this me? Is this not me? Does this align with me? Does this not align with me? And then cutting it out. It helps you to constantly be doing that with your self-image, but also your life in itself and all the parts in it. And so that's a good thing, because then if something doesn't uphold to those high standards and you talk about it and it still doesn't change, you got to get rid of it. And guess what? You'll probably do a lot better on the other side of that, because a lot of the time the problem is we keep a lot of these things in that don't align with our self-image, and they keep pulling us back to a story, an old outdated story that we don't reside in anymore. And the difference of existing in a realm that actually isn't your truth is so painful. And I know that from personal experience, right? And so it's important to do this. It's important to have that auditing, because you want to know what's right for you and not. And the only way to do that is to have that accountability, okay? So another importance of honoring this is it prevents your systematic burnout. So being more compassionate with yourself and seeing rest as sacred is so incredibly important for the longevity of you, but also teaching other people. Like, we're trying to teach the world to be better. The more of us that learn how to do this, not be burnt out, the better we're all going to be in a place for handling each other, for one thing. But we're also going to understand when people are going through things, because we understand and are compassionate with ourselves. So we're not immediately willing to freak out or disown somebody over little things, but we're also going to take it seriously when people do create such atrocities, because we are more compassionate with ourselves to know, I don't deserve this, no matter what you're going through. But also seeing yourself as sacred, you know that you really do deserve the best treatment, and that this world deserves the best treatment. And so it helps you to know that rest is important, because ultimately not everything in life can just be go, go, go all the time. Some things do require that gestation period. And by you giving yourself that time to really grow, you give also other people to grow. And that's a really beautiful space to be in, because a lot of time we're rushing so far forward that we don't even know if people align or things align with us, because we're really not in ourselves. And then we're 16 years down the hole in a marriage that we fucking hate. And we didn't like them the whole time, and we just couldn't be honest, right? Like, what the hell? So that's the thing, is like, it's important for you to know these things, because it does help protect you from burning out, but also it helps you prevent your life from being completely something that you never even want to live ever, let alone for 16 years like that, And the more burnt out we are, sadly, the more willing we are to accept things that are not good for us, because we just think it's so much work at that point to have to change it, right? So yeah, anyways, helps shield and protect us from manipulation. Those without self-rituals and devotion are highly reactive, thrown off balance quite easily, right? Rituals create this buffer zone. Like, it's like that metaphor that I use, which is like along the water's edge, they have a lot of those Now I can't think of the word, but anyways, they have these things that protect the water from coming up if we have tidal waves, right? And the whole thing is not to limit the ocean. It's just to create something that if it's coming, it's a way to safeguard us so we don't get as hurt when they come in, right? And so again, it's just giving us that buffer zone, letting us respond with logic rather than reacting with emotions. It's giving us that little window to be able to navigate a bit differently versus being completely swept away, because if you don't have boundaries, they're already right in your face before you recognize a boundary's been crossed, okay? So that's all I really have for you today, which I'm sure was a long one again by the time I get these all together, but the main points that I want to walk away from this video is if you don't care about yourself, why would others? You know, if we don't care about the planet, why would others care about the planet? The whole thing is that everything is an inside job, and the more we work on being an inside job, the more we can all come together and making this an outside job to fix this whole place. Because no matter what, it is all of our responsibility to fix this place. It's not just the people in government, because clearly we've seen we cannot trust them to be doing everything, right? We clearly cannot trust the people who are saying that they're out there for the best of us in healthcare or in nutrition and food and stuff, because we see that they'd rather poison us than give us food. We cannot trust the people in tech because they are now saying that AI is more important than people who are human in having access to basic resources, right? Like, why is AI getting fresh data, water, and not people are not even getting fresh water? Anyways, the point is that we need to care about ourselves. The more we care about ourselves on this planet, the better everything is going to do, because we're not going to be tolerating these things that are not okay anymore, okay? And to know that if you do not make your own rituals, if you do not put the effort in to find out and create these ones for you, your brain works on an automated loop. So what that means is it's going to go right back. It's going to revert back to what it knows. It's going to revert back to any old stories, any outdated timelines, anything like that, because if we don't write the future of what that's going to look like, the brain doesn't know where to go. We have to tell it where to go. We have to tell our life where to go. And so if we do not make our own rituals, we will then be forced to play out and act out and live out and be in accordance with old, crappy ones that we don't want to be a part of, right? And so it's important to know that if you're not setting them, it still doesn't mean that they're not going to apply in your life. It means that you're just going to be run by them instead of you controlling them yourself, okay? So health-wise, not caring about this sets us up for failure. So again, the more success you want for your future, the more you should care about these kinds of things. The more self-devotion you have, the more loyal you are going to be to your goals, to what's right for you, to saying no to these unhealthy things. So the more that you do not care about this, the more you are setting yourself up for failure, because you are telling yourself, I don't need to care about being devoted to me. It doesn't even matter, right? And at the end of the day, it matters the most out of all. A lack of self-devotion can also put off or push away, ruin bonds that are good for us, or even jobs and environments. It's important to know that when we do not have this, we are not aware of these things, we are self-sabotaging a lot of the time. So we are going to turn away and walk away from things that are actually really good for us, because we do not have the capacity to accept them and allow them in, because somewhere in the storyline, we're not the person that has this good person. We're not the person that has this good situation. So I have to wreck it now, right? And so it is important to know that a lot of the time without this in your life, you are potentially hurting yourself and destructing or demolishing actually good things you actually might want in your life by unconscious patterns, right? And so if we cannot worship ourselves, what is the point? This is the biggest one. If we can't worship ourselves, what is the point? It is your own life, man. Lady, whoever, our life, we see a full journey and deserve reverence, kudos, and efforts from the self for it. I don't understand people who don't care about their life like that, because it's the only life we have, and it's the most important one. Everybody else's life is theirs to enjoy and be enthralled in, but it's yours to be enjoying and enthralling in yours. You're the only one that controls your own. So if you can't worship your own and everything that you're doing and adore everything with that kind of level of devotion and happiness, and what are you doing here? What was the point, right? Like, that's where we want to get at, is you absolutely love everything you're up to and doing, because it helps you live in accordance with what is true for you in your core essence, right? And so another thing, we cannot pour for an empty cup, right? Which we all know. in a reactive world, it matters we reclaim our autonomy however possible. So this world really wants us to just go with the old programming and just not really care about the stuff and not be devoted to self. And so the more we react and the more that we don't think things through and the more we're unconscious, the better they do, because the less we question, the less we fight back, the more we just submit and accept what is rather than stand up for what we believe is right? And so it is important for us to reclaim this autonomy, and that means putting these rituals in, and some of them will look very different for others than it will for you. And that's okay, because part of what that is the individualization process, is realizing you need something different than others, and that's going to fulfill you the same way theirs is going to fulfill them. And there's no judging each other on that. Right? And so our life is made of the sum of our micro choices. As much as we want to believe that maybe fate or luck is a big deal, a lot of what everyday life is going to look like is these little itty bitty choices that we make all the time, right? Like just to do the dishes or to not, to have the conversation or to not, to actually finally do something like go to the gym or to not. Like a lot of these little choices are what's going to actually set you up for the grand scheme. It's never going to be one big move you made, your life changed completely. It's going to be the 1,000 million little steps you took to get to that plateau, or no, I don't want to say plateau, platform. And so, yeah, life is a sum of your micro choices. So make sure every little choice you're making is aligned and honoring to you, because you're going to have such a massive effect in the long run if you give yourself the benefit of the doubt through those micro choices. We also have to teach the world how to teach or to treat us. And so we are the standard. So the more that we lean into the fact that we are the standard for how to treat ourselves and start treating ourselves that way, the more the world knows how to treat us too. For so long, many of us have not known that we deserve good, healthy food and good friendships, and that people don't actually have to be toxic, and none of this stuff has to be toxic. We don't actually have to live these ways. And guess what? Now there's a lot more people doing a lot better than there used to be, even though there's a lot of us not. Because we are learning how to effectively treat ourselves, and therefore it's changing how the world is treating itself. And there are a lot of people trying to fight that back, but we have now become the standard. We are now becoming, no, it is not okay to poison us no matter what in our foods. It is not okay for people and AI to be the more important thing over the land and animals, especially even humans then on top of that. Right? Like, we are now becoming the standard to say, no, this is not okay anymore, because we have become so enlightened and aware of what is going on that we are now able to be like, no more. And that's where this awareness and recognition comes in, and why self-worth is important, and self-devotion and having these rituals, because a lot of the time they wanted you to be devoted to their way of life, which was not good for you, which was for you to be their modern day slaves, right? And just put out the energy and effort and money that they want from you, and to not ask or do any questions and just live and die your life that way. And that's not what we're doing anymore, right? By being devoted to ourselves, we become devoted to this world and become devoted to a greater picture, which is living a life that is actually about more than just the top elites getting fucking happy-go-lucky ride while poisoning the rest of us. Like, no. Ugh. Anyways, my point is, don't waste your life waiting to be treated as sacred. Invest in yourself today, because the relationship you have with yourself is the only one that will last our entire lifetime. No matter what, at the end of the day, you're going to be the only one that's going to come with you to your deathbed. 110%. You cannot know anybody else will be there with you. Even these people that you love now, it's not because they're not going to be with you. It's because maybe they'll die before you. Morbid, sorry, but the point is that you are the only journey, only story that you have 110% the entire background for. You are the only one that has every little detail and every little thing that has made you up. So your story, your opinion, what's going on for you, most important out of anybody, because it's the only one that's completely relevant to you. And the more that you pay attention to it and honor it, and then see how to worship yourself through that, through these actions, through these rituals, the more that you can live in a way that is according to your soul, And that is such a beautiful thing, because a soul like you, when you know a soul like you and know that you deserve better and know this world deserves better, it is truly remarkable to see you level up to being that, compared to a world that never wanted you to find it out and never wanted you to be able to do it. Right? And so I think when I am not doing my best, self-ritual has completely dropped out of my life, right? Like, I stopped doing everything, and like I said, it becomes more like a numbing and escaping kind of thing. And so the moment I start doing even a few of my rituals, maybe it's not better right away, but I am better pretty quick after. And so that's the thing, is these things, they're supposed to make you feel good. They're supposed to make your days feel better, and not always are you going to be doing them, and that's okay. Because even me, is what I do, still not perfect at it, but it's the coming back to it. It's the always remembering that you don't need to be perfect to do it. It doesn't need to be elaborate, but you do need to have some level of consistency to show you still show up and care, right? And so anyways, much love. I hope some of this stuff helped you today, but if not, maybe another video will. Anyways, take care.